Hello, this is Mish, and welcome to another WestWorld video. This one is a theories video, which has been inspired by the last episode that I saw, which was episode 8, Trace Decay. So if you've not seen that episode, possibly pause this, then come back a bit later after you've seen it. So I'm going to concentrate on 4 questions, 4 things around this episode. So the capture of Dolores and William by Logan, and what are the consequences of that? The Man in Black, his backstory, and obviously the whole question, who is he? Dolores entering the village, and what does that mean? And a new theory I have around the maze. Right, so let's start with Logan capturing Dolores and William. So either way you look at it, it is not a good situation for any of those characters. But the real concentration around this situation is the suggestion that William or Logan becomes the Man in Black at a later stage of his life. Now, the Man in Black is referenced many times of being born in the park and having that kind of, an altered state in the park. So, is this the situation where this occurs? And if you think about it, what could happen to a normal human being to make them change so drastically? So, there's a few things that I'm thinking could happen here. We see that the relationship between Dolores and William is very strong. I would almost say it's a love relationship, but obviously that's a little weird being one as a host and one as a guest. But in saying that, Dolores seems to be past the point of a normal host, well past that point, and her, memories and emotions are far greater than any hosts that are around at that time. So, one option could be that Logan, being so angry at William, knows how affectionate he is towards Dolores. Maybe they torture her and kill her. That could be one thing. But whilst we know William has that affinity to Dolores and that love, the thing is, he probably would calm down from that. Once he leaves the park, he's going to go on his normal life and remember that she was just a host. So another option for something there, life-changing. One thing would be that William kills Logan, or Logan kills William. Now, whichever side of the fence you're on, who the Man in Black is. Either way, that will be a life-changing scenario. And also, the question of how it gets resolved as well could be a heavy impact to that. On one side of things, we know that the Man in Black is a very powerful man. So, could that imply that if William or Logan killed each other, that the death could be hidden, and there will be no, consequence for the death? Could Delos hide the death in, as a way as an encouragement for them to purchase the park and save the park from the current situation? Because we've heard Logan mention many times that the park in its current time, the historic timeline, is hemorrhaging money. So there's a few options there. But either way, I think it has to be something serious that's going to happen. And I kind of lean towards that William or Logan is going to die. And then we're going to see either maybe a cover-up, or maybe just that power, that wealth, that they might be able to get away with it. But one thing I will say, that remember, William is being married into the family. So he is entering the family. It's Logan's family. So if William was to kill Logan, surely the strength of the family will stop William from entering the family, or cause such a rift that William's marriage is off. So that kind of would mean to me that if anything, it would go the other way, that Logan will kill William, and that will maybe make him change and try and be a good person for the rest of his life, as opposed to the other way where William kills Logan and it kind of turns him evil, as we see now. But either way, I think it has to be that situation, as opposed to something happening to Dolores, because at the end of the day, they know that she's a host. Okay, let's move on. The next area, which is talking about the Man in Black, it's a continuation of this, but a separate area, I think. So we hear a lot about the Man in Black's backstory with this episode. So we hear about, how he owns the park, how he owns the world, he says. Obviously not literally, but I think the suggestion there is just his power, his wealth, his probably political power, being so wealthy. In essence, that much power, you could really say that you own the world. But just to mix things up, he's a philanthropist. So we hear more about his relationship. So he is married, which parallels with what William is doing. They have a child, a girl, and time goes on, and we hear the kind of story that life is not so good, that his wife knows of his dark side. So the dark side that's been revealed to him. He manages to hide it from the rest of the world, but his wife knows. Eventually his wife seems to kill herself. And then we see, I think I previously have mentioned that I think it was before his wife killed himself that he went into the park to test himself. But I know a few people have mentioned they think it's after that. I think it's open to your interpretation on that, because he mentions his wife died. And then after that, he was the conversation with his daughter. Then he didn't specify who he was going to prove the point to. So for me, I kind of assumed it went back in time a little bit in that conversation around he was saying, that's what his daughter said, that he caused her death. And then he was kind of just referencing the point of a conversation with his wife later on. But I can see how you could also say that it was proving the point to his daughter. So he goes to the park to test himself. And that is where we see him killing Maeve and her daughter at the time. So for me, that sequence is a really oversimplified, and I think there's more to it, but it's good to know the relationship and the ties around that. But I've picked up a few things from that. There was some subtle stuff around the fades to the scenes. So there was a scene when the man in black was talking, and Maeve had a knife, and he says this. He wants to get to Arnold's game because Arnold's game cuts deep, and we cut to a scene with Maeve with a knife. Now, obviously, on the surface of that, you could say that's just a reference to her killing Clem, the new Clem, at the time. But for me, I take that as a foreshadow that Maeve is going to kill the man in black. Now, there's a few other things here. Obviously, Maeve is remembering him in a big way. So if she was to see him, would she kill him? I think definitely. At this time in her life, she's already just about killed Sylvester. She has no problem attacking humans. She has no problem attacking anybody. And she's got that heightened intelligence. And obviously the heightened ability of the hosts as they're, in essence, almost perfect humans, physically, for the most part. So, if she was to meet up with the man in black, she would kill him without a hesitation. And that, for me, that situation already, on top of the whole point there where we saw him saying, this cuts deep. And we've already seen she tried to kill him. And obviously she couldn't because at that time her code wouldn't let it. That situation is funny though, because that scene there, now thinking about it, once again, how can someone stab, the man in black stabs her in the stomach, and it's a mortal wound, and the knife is sharp and it works. She rips the knife out of herself, slashes his throat, and nothing happens to him. Are we trying to say that the blade is being controlled by somebody? This is just a complete side note here that, once again, these things don't exist in the real world. How can a blade work 1 second and not another? Unless, of course, that scene didn't happen like that and she actually did kill him. And I guess that could work. I mean, if it's a flashback to... It depends who the flashback is. If it's a flashback to the Man in Black, maybe he actually did die and that's how he saw the maze. And then there's a whole conversation of is the Man in Black real? Maybe he's a host. But anyway, that's for another topic. But if you take it at face value, he stabs her, she stabs him, the knife works once, the knife doesn't work another time. That doesn't make any sense. So, once again, simulation? Maybe. Anyway, so yeah, I think that we're going to definitely see Maeve meet the Man in Black, and will she seek revenge? I think she definitely would, if that situation occurs. Okay, so what else do we know about that situation? So yeah, we know William's getting married, which parallels to that, but the whole situation around Logan's family, it's going to be weird. If if William is the Man in Black, would Logan, and if Logan is still alive, would Logan and his family allow him to seemingly take control of everything by the look of it? I'm clutching at straws here around this business and their family, but it seems that the Man in Black is the powerhouse of that family. He is the pinnacle of that family. And would that happen if Logan was still around? That's another question. And another thing here as well, the final point around the Man in Black, is we see him see the lady that was on the ground, in Wyatt's, and all the corpses that Wyatt has killed. There's one person in there. Obviously, it's a trap. We know that now. But he mentions he's seen her before. Now, I immediately think because William, that's the first person that William met, so it would definitely stick in William's mind. But that character has been around quite a bit. So she was at the start when William arrived. She was also at the start when the hosts were first being tested by Ford and Arnold. We see her walking by. And you could argue that might not be a host, that might be a human, because all the other hosts at that point in time aren't functioning correctly, but she is. Another point there, you could say maybe there's more to that scene than meets the eye. But on one side of that, once again, face value, you say that's William referencing that he's seen her before. So once again, another tie now that the Man in Black is William. But if you've been there, if you've been visiting the park for 30 years, they've mentioned multiple times they only have a couple of hundred hosts. Let's go over the top. Let's say they've got 2,000 hosts. If you visit the park for 30 years, you would see everyone. The faces that you remember. So he could easily have seen that character before, not related to that scene with William. Okay, I'll finish that section there. Let's move on to my third section here. Now, I did gloss over this topic with my review of the episode, but I want to get a bit more in depth into it. So this is about when Dolores goes to the village. So we see her see the village as it currently is. I guess once again, we're talking about timelines here. So she walks to the village. She sees an empty village. So then that is her current timeline. She has a flashback to when it was in the very beginning. So in the infancy of the park, that bustling township, that was where things were happening. You can see that is where the training hosts. Then the other timeline for Dolores at that point was when she kind of went back and William's there and there's nothing there. So that's after whatever occurs happens and they bury the village. So let's talk about the scene, her flashback to when the town was bustling. Now for me, I mentioned previously that scene is the exact same scene through the exact same eyes when Ford was describing Arnold to Bernard. When Bernard was in Ford's office and he says, "You need to tell me the truth." So he does, and he describes Arnold. And we see that scene through Dolores' eyes. Now, for me, if you're seeing a scene through the same person's eyes, that is a suggestion that is the person. So if you're seeing it through one person's eyes, and then you skip ahead a few episodes or, a timeline, and it's the same eyes, it's the same person. So that is a strange situation. So that is one big key there that's saying Dolores is Arnold. And obviously we have the issue here that Arnold is a male name, and Dolores is clearly not a male. But one side of me also suggesting that everyone references each other generally in this area. I mean, Ford, it's his surname. So could Arnold be his surname? Therefore, could it be Dolores Arnold or something like that? But anyway, so we see another thing as well that suggests that Dolores is Arnold. So she holds up a weapon. She's going to shoot herself. And that is, once again, another reference to Arnold's suicide. Because we know Arnold was a very careful person. So just another suggestion. And it's strange because there was another thing as well in this episode. When the voice was talking to Dolores, it had a female undertone. And that's the first time I've ever heard that. So the closer she's getting, the more it's seeming to be like her. So It's strange. But on top of that, I mean, how can we ever say that anyone is Arnold except for Bernard? There's been so many references that Bernard is Arnold, it's crazy. So Bernard's Arnold, Dolores is Arnold. And another one I want to add in here as well is Wyatt. Now Wyatt has been vilified by Ford. Wyatt is this person that has killed everything. He's very evil. He's the main source of this whole new narrative. And he also says that the narrative, like all good narratives, it has its base in fact. So are we saying that that Wyatt was the original issue with the park? So once again, could Wyatt be the vilification of Arnold? Another option. I think they're the three main contenders for me at the moment around Arnold, if we find out that character. So Dolores, somehow, Bernard, and Wyatt. Another thing that I want to add on to that is an old reference to Dolores finding her grave. We see in some of her flashbacks, she's at her grave and it says Dolores in it. Her surname is not visible, so could that be Dolores Arnold? It's an option. But just that point there of her finding her own grave. Now, is that... I guess that could be a look in the future, because it doesn't really make sense to be anywhere else. But someone finding their grave, is that a literal reference, or is that a reference of that Dolores has found her grave because she was killed and the suicide, so that the body that's in the grave was the original Arnold, which was her, so Dolores Arnold, whatever you want to call her, and her host is finding that body, her finding her grave, and she's figured it all out. Possible, but it's pretty far-fetched. But I just wanted to bring those issues up because, for me, my head is spinning on that topic for who could be Arnold. Because I start thinking, yes, definitely Bernard. I'm in the Bernard camp, 100%. And then all of a sudden, I see that episode, and it's like, whoa, this seems like it's Dolores, which makes no sense at all. But then on top of that, there's the whole Wyatt thing. But I think the Wyatt addition to this whole thing adds a real curveball, and it adds just another layer to it all. So I'll leave that one here. It's not so much a theories as more, I have so many questions about that one. But once again, Arnold, Bernard, Dolores, or Wyatt, what are your thoughts? I'm still thinking Bernard, but that was so heavy Dolores in that last episode, it's crazy. Okay, on to the final section. So this is about the maze. Now, I've never really gone into the maze in a great depth about what the maze is. Now, for me, I kind of, with this last episode, I think we got a hint of it. So what happened is we saw, now this is around the Maeve and the Man in Black scene. So we saw the Man in Black kill Maeve. Well, she kind of staggers out and she falls down onto the soil, and scratched into the soil is the sign of the maze. Now, once again, are we meant to take that literally? So we're trying to say that the Man in Black walked into that house without seeing that before. The Maeve just randomly walked out and fell right slap bang in the middle of it. Or was it more the point that seeing her emotions was really the point of the maze itself? Now, that if you watch that scene again, you'll also see that after that point, so after Maeve, I think she probably dies, or maybe dies, or they put her back to the laboratory. They put her back for reconditioning, and she's losing the plot. She's going crazy. No one can calm her down. And along comes Ford and Bernard. And Ford obviously calms her down with some music. We can see that. And we see Bernard looking at her brain through the visual representation. And it's fragmented. So the interesting part here is that visual representation looks quite similar to the maze representation. So we could say here that the Man in Black has destroyed Maeve down to the point that she actually enters the maze. Therefore, that's his reference, is that he finally knows about the maze because of what happened with Maeve. Maeve, maze, Maeve, maze. Funny names. But yeah, so that the reference there is not so much a visual one. It's more about what he sees with her emotions. So that kind of makes me look as when we're saying getting to the maze, unlocking the maze, setting everyone free, is it more a point around just unlocking the hosts in the park? So the Men in Black might find a trigger or some mechanism or something which fragments every host in the park's memory, brain, till it's free, because she was free to kill herself, which obviously wasn't a good decision. But she did that. Could she have at that point? Could she have injured Ford and Bernard? Possibly. We don't know. But if we're saying if you unlock the maze, you are unlocking all the hosts to be free, and that would obviously be the AI or the robot uprising, which this show is aiming to get to. So, because a lot of the time I've been thinking that the maze is more of a location, but for this one I just thought I'd add that in because I found it quite interesting. Let me know your thoughts. I hope you found this video interesting. I hope my rambling has actually made sense to you guys. And just leave me some feedback below. Thumbs up if you liked the video, thumbs down if you didn't, obviously. And always really appreciate your fantastic feedback down below, and I'll respond to as much as I can. And until next time, this is Mesh, and I'll see you later.